Marcus Johnson adjusted his grip on the mop handle as he made his way down the marble-floored hallway of Meridian Financial Tower. The 32-year-old father of two had been working the night shift as a janitor for almost 3 years now, and he knew every corner of the 50-story building by heart. His routine was methodical and efficient, just like everything else in his life had to be since becoming a single parent. The elevator dinged softly as he reached the executive floors, where the real money in the building was made. Marcus had learned to time his cleaning perfectly with the executive's schedules. Most of them left by 7 in the evening, leaving him to work in peaceful silence, while his 8-year-old daughter Zoe and 5-year-old son Jalen stayed with Mrs. Patterson, their elderly neighbor, who watched them for a small fee. Tonight felt different, though. As Marcus wheeled his cart toward the corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, he noticed the lights were still on. Through the frosted glass door, he could see a silhouette hunched over a desk, papers scattered everywhere. He checked his watch, 11:30 p.m. This was unusual. Marcus quietly began cleaning the conference room adjacent to the office, trying not to disturb whoever was working so late. He had always prided himself on being invisible during his work, efficient and unobtrusive. It was a survival skill he had developed over years of working in spaces where people like him weren't always welcomed with open arms. The sound of a door opening made him look up. A woman emerged from the corner office, her usually perfect blonde hair slightly disheveled, her designer blazer wrinkled from hours of wear. Marcus recognized her immediately. Victoria Sterling, the CEO of Meridian Financial. He had seen her picture in the lobby and occasionally caught glimpses of her during his evening rounds, but they had never been in the same space at the same time. She looked exhausted and frustrated, running her hands through her hair as she surveyed the empty hallway. Her eyes fell on Marcus, and for a moment, they simply looked at each other. He expected her to look away or walk past him as most executives did, but instead, she offered a tired smile. "Long night?" she asked, her voice hoarse from hours of phone calls and meetings. Marcus was surprised by the casual tone. In his experience, executives either ignored him completely or spoke to him only when something needed to be fixed or cleaned urgently. "Yes, ma'am. Though I imagine yours has been longer," he replied respectfully. Victoria let out a short laugh that sounded more stressed than amused. "You could say that. I've been trying to sort through these merger documents for the past 6 hours, and I feel like I'm going in circles." She paused, studying Marcus's face. "I don't think we've officially met. I'm Victoria Sterling." "Marcus Johnson, ma'am. I clean this floor every night." "Please, just Victoria," she said, surprising him again. "Ma'am makes me feel ancient, and I already feel old enough dealing with all this corporate nonsense." There was something disarmingly honest about her admission that made Marcus relax slightly. "Is there anything I can help with?" "I mean, besides the cleaning," he offered, immediately wondering if he had overstepped. Victoria considered this for a moment, glancing back at her office. "You know what? Actually, yes. Do you drink coffee? Because I've had about 8 cups today, and I'm starting to think caffeine is the only thing keeping me upright." Marcus found himself smiling despite his surprise. "I do drink coffee, though probably not the expensive kind you're used to. Right now, I'd drink gas station coffee if it meant I could think straight," Victoria said, walking toward the small kitchen area on the executive floor. "Come on. Let's see if we can find something that doesn't taste like it was filtered through cardboard." As they walked together, Marcus couldn't help but notice how different Victoria seemed from the polished, intimidating figure he had observed from a distance. Without her usual entourage of assistants and executives, she seemed more human, more approachable. Her expensive heels clicked against the floor, creating an odd rhythm with the squeak of his cleaning cart wheels. The kitchen was stocked with premium coffee brands and an expensive espresso machine that looked like it belonged in a high-end cafe. Victoria stared at it with obvious bewilderment, pressing buttons randomly and growing more frustrated when nothing happened correctly. "I spend more time in boardrooms than kitchens," she admitted with embarrassment. "My assistant usually handles coffee duties." Marcus stepped forward carefully. "May I?" When she nodded, he examined the machine for a moment before efficiently preparing 2 cups of coffee. "I learned to use one of these when I worked at a hotel before this job," he explained as the rich aroma filled the small space. Thank you, Victoria said, accepting the steaming mug gratefully. What brought you to Meridian? If you don't mind me asking. Marcus hesitated. His story wasn't one he usually shared with anyone, let alone with the CEO of the company, but something about the late hour and Victoria's unexpected openness made him feel like honesty might be okay. I needed steady work with benefits, he said simply. I have 2 kids, and their mother isn't in the picture anymore. Night shifts work better for our schedule, and the health insurance here is good. Victoria's expression softened. How old are your children? 8 and 5. Zoe and Jalen. Marcus couldn't help but smile when he mentioned their names. Zoe wants to be a scientist, and Jalen is convinced he's going to be a superhero when he grows up. Smart kids with big dreams, Victoria said. That's wonderful. She sipped her coffee thoughtfully. I don't have children myself. Work has always been my priority. For better or worse, they stood in comfortable silence for a few moments, both lost in their own thoughts. Marcus found himself studying Victoria's profile as she gazed out the window at the city lights below. Without the armor of her executive persona, she looked younger and somehow sadder. I should let you get back to your work, Marcus said finally, not wanting to overstay his welcome despite how surprisingly pleasant the conversation had been. Actually, Victoria said, turning back to him, would you mind if I asked you something? And please feel free to say no if it's inappropriate. Marcus nodded cautiously. Those merger documents I mentioned, they're for acquiring a small community development company. I've been looking at numbers and projections all day, but I feel like I'm missing something important about the actual impact on people's lives. You seem like someone who understands real-world concerns better than most of the people I work with. She paused, looking almost vulnerable. Would you be willing to take a look? I mean, just give me your honest opinion about what it might mean for regular working families? Marcus was stunned. In all his years of cleaning offices and being invisible to the people who made important decisions, no one had ever asked for his opinion on anything beyond whether the trash needed to be emptied. I'm not sure I'd be much help with business documents, he said honestly. Maybe that's exactly why I need your perspective, Victoria replied. Sometimes being too close to something makes it impossible to see clearly. Something in her voice convinced him. Okay, he said. I can take a look. They returned to her office, where Victoria cleared a space on the conference table and spread out the documents. For the next hour, Marcus found himself reading through proposals and financial projections, while Victoria explained the technical aspects. To his surprise, much of it made sense to him, and he found himself asking questions that seemed to make Victoria think in ways she hadn't before. You're right, she said after he pointed out a potential issue with the timeline for relocating affected residents. We completely overlooked the school year calendar. Moving families in the middle of the semester would be incredibly disruptive for children. Marcus felt a sense of satisfaction he hadn't experienced in years. His insights actually mattered to someone making real decisions that affected real people. By the time they finished reviewing the documents, it was nearly 2 a.m. Marcus realized he still had 3 floors left to clean, and his shift ended at 6 a.m. I've kept you from your work, Victoria said apologetically, noticing him check his watch. I'm sorry. It's okay, Marcus assured her, and he meant it. This was actually really interesting. For me too, Victoria said, and there was something in her eyes that suggested she meant more than just the business discussion. Marcus, would you be willing to do this again sometime? I mean, look over documents and give me your perspective? I could arrange for some compensation for your time. Marcus felt his heart rate increase slightly. I don't need payment for sharing my opinion, but I'd be asking you to take time away from your family or your rest. That has value, Victoria insisted. Besides, you've already helped me more tonight than most of my highly paid consultants have in weeks. They exchanged contact information, with Victoria giving him her direct office line and cell phone number. As Marcus prepared to leave, Victoria walked him to the elevator. Thank you, she said sincerely. For the coffee, for the conversation, for the insights. I haven't had a discussion that felt this genuine in longer than I care to admit. Thank you for asking my opinion, Marcus replied. I never thought anyone in a position like yours would care what someone like me thinks. Victoria's expression became serious. That's exactly the problem with positions like mine. We get so isolated from real life that we forget we're making decisions that affect real people. Tonight reminded me of that. As the elevator doors closed between them, Marcus found himself thinking about Victoria's tired smile and the way her eyes had lit up when they talked about his children. For the first time in years, he had felt like more than just an invisible service worker. He had felt seen, heard, and valued. Little did he know that upstairs, Victoria was still standing by the elevator, staring at the closed doors and thinking about the dignity and intelligence she had seen in Marcus's eyes, and wondering when she had last met someone who seemed so genuinely good. 2 weeks had passed since that late-night conversation, and Marcus found himself looking forward to his shifts in a way he never had before. Victoria had called him twice to review documents, and each conversation had felt more natural and engaging than the last. She had insisted on paying him a consulting fee that was more than he made in a week of cleaning. But what meant more to him was the way she listened to his ideas and actually implemented some of his suggestions. Tonight, Marcus was cleaning the 20th floor when his phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. "Working late again. Coffee in the kitchen if you want some. The good stuff this time." Marcus smiled despite himself. Over their recent conversations, he had learned that Victoria had a dry sense of humor that she rarely showed in professional settings. He finished cleaning the conference room quickly and made his way up to the executive floor. Victoria was in the kitchen, successfully operating the espresso machine this time, looking more relaxed than he had ever seen her. She had traded her usual business suit for dark jeans and a simple sweater, and her hair was pulled back in a casual ponytail. "Learning to work the machine was self-defense," she said when she noticed his surprised expression. "I got tired of drinking terrible coffee every time I stayed late." "Looks like you've mastered it," Marcus observed, accepting the perfectly prepared cup she offered him. "I had a good teacher," Victoria replied, and there was something in her tone that made Marcus feel warm in a way that had nothing to do with the coffee. They settled into what had become their usual spot, the small seating area by the kitchen windows that overlooked the city. During their previous conversations, Marcus had learned that Victoria often worked late because her empty apartment felt too quiet, and Victoria had learned that Marcus preferred night shifts because it meant he could spend mornings and afternoons with his children. "How are Zoe and Jalen?" Victoria asked, settling into the chair across from him. Marcus's face lit up the way it always did when someone asked about his kids. "Zoe got an A on her science project about solar systems. She built this incredible model, with lights and everything. And Jalen has decided that being a superhero requires understanding math, so he's actually been doing his homework without being asked." "Smart kids," Victoria said, and Marcus could hear the genuine fondness in her voice. Over their conversations, she had become invested in his children's lives in a way that surprised them both. "I'd love to meet them someday." The words hung in the air between them, loaded with implications that neither of them was quite ready to address directly. Marcus felt his heart skip slightly at the suggestion, while Victoria looked surprised by her own boldness. "I'm sure they'd like that," Marcus said carefully. "Though I should warn you, Jalen will probably try to recruit you as his sidekick." Victoria laughed, and the tension eased slightly. "I could use a good sidekick. The corporate world could definitely benefit from some superhero intervention." Their conversations had evolved from business discussions to more personal topics over the past 2 weeks. Marcus had shared stories about single parenthood, his struggles to balance work and family, and his dreams for his children's futures. Victoria had opened up about the loneliness of success, the pressure of being one of the few women CEOs in her industry, and her growing realization that professional achievement hadn't brought her the satisfaction she had expected. "Can I ask you something personal?" Victoria said, setting down her coffee cup. Marcus nodded, noting the shift in her tone. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like you wake up and wonder how you ended up where you are?" The question caught Marcus off guard with its vulnerability. "Sometimes," he admitted. "When Zoe's mother left, I had to rebuild everything I thought my life was going to be. There were nights when I'd look at my kids sleeping and wonder if I was strong enough to give them what they deserved." "But you were," Victoria said softly. I'm still figuring that out, Marcus replied honestly. What about you? Do you feel that way? Victoria was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city lights. I worked so hard to get here, but now that I'm here, I'm not sure this is what I actually wanted. I have more money than I know what to do with, more professional recognition than I ever dreamed of. But I go home to an empty apartment every night and eat takeout while reading quarterly reports. That sounds lonely, Marcus said gently. It is, Victoria admitted. I keep thinking I'll find time for a personal life once the next big project is finished, or once we close the next major deal. But there's always another project, another deal. Meanwhile, life is just passing by. Marcus found himself wanting to reach out and comfort her. But he wasn't sure if that would be appropriate. The growing attraction he felt toward Victoria was something he tried to keep buried, knowing the complications it could create. But in moments like this, when she let her guard down and showed him who she really was beneath the executive facade, it became harder to ignore. Maybe you're looking at it wrong, Marcus said finally. Maybe life isn't something that happens after work. Maybe it's supposed to happen during work, too. Victoria looked at him with curiosity. What do you mean? I mean, maybe the point isn't to separate your professional life from your personal life, but to find ways to bring meaning into both. Like these conversations we have, they help you with work decisions, but they also feel meaningful on a personal level. At least to me. They do to me too, Victoria said quietly. And there was something in her eyes that made Marcus's breath catch. Before either of them could say anything else, Marcus's phone rang loudly, breaking the intimate moment. He glanced at the screen and saw Mrs. Patterson's number. I'm sorry, I need to take this, he said apologetically. Marcus, dear, I'm so sorry to call so late. Mrs. Patterson's elderly voice came through clearly in the quiet space. Jalen has been running a fever, and it's getting worse. I think you might need to take him to urgent care. Marcus was on his feet immediately, his mind racing. How high is his fever? When did it start? Victoria watched with concern as Marcus gathered his cleaning supplies quickly while staying on the phone with Mrs. Patterson. When he hung up, his face was etched with worry. I have to go, he said, already moving toward the elevator. My son is sick. Of course, Victoria said, following him. Is there anything I can do to help? Marcus paused, touched by the genuine concern in her voice. No, but thank you. I'll probably need to miss work tomorrow to stay home with him. Don't worry about work, Victoria said firmly. Take care of your family. As they waited for the elevator, Victoria made a decision that surprised her. Marcus, take my car, she said, pulling keys from her purse. It'll be faster than waiting for a cab or the bus. And you won't have to worry about parking at the hospital. Marcus stared at the keys she held out to him. Keys to what he knew was an expensive luxury vehicle. I can't take your car. Yes, you can, Victoria insisted. Your son needs medical attention, and this is the fastest way to get him there. The car is just sitting in the parking garage doing nothing. Marcus felt a surge of gratitude that was almost overwhelming. In all his years of struggling as a single parent, no one had ever offered him help so readily, especially not someone who barely knew him. Thank you, he said, accepting the keys. I'll get it back to you as soon as I can. Don't worry about that right now, Victoria said as the elevator arrived. Just focus on Jalen. As Marcus hurried toward the parking garage, Victoria found herself pacing her office, unable to concentrate on the work that had seemed so urgent just minutes before. She realized she was genuinely worried about a child she had never met. Simply because he mattered to Marcus. And Marcus had somehow become important to her in a way she hadn't expected. 3 hours later, Victoria's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Jalen is okay. Ear infection. Antibiotics prescribed. Thank you for everything tonight. Victoria felt relief wash over her as she responded. So glad he's okay. Keep the car as long as you need it. The next morning, Victoria found herself distracted during meetings, checking her phone more often than usual. Around noon, she received another text from Marcus. Bringing your car back tonight after my shift starts. Jalen is feeling better, asking when he can meet the nice lady who helped Daddy. Victoria smiled at her phone, ignoring the puzzled looks from her colleagues in the boardroom. She typed back, "Tell him anytime he wants. I'd love to meet him." That evening, Marcus arrived at the office building with Victoria's car and a small paper bag. He found Victoria in her office, and she looked up with visible relief when he knocked on her door. "How's Jalen?" she asked immediately. "Much better, thanks to you," Marcus said, holding out her car keys. "I can't thank you enough for last night. You have no idea what that meant to me." I'm just glad he's okay," Victoria said, accepting the keys. "You don't need to thank me for doing what any one decent person would do." Marcus set the paper bag on her desk with a shy smile. "Jalen wanted to send you something as a thank you. He made it at school today, even though he wasn't feeling his best." Victoria opened the bag carefully and pulled out a hand-drawn picture in crayon, showing a woman in a business suit with a cape flying over a city skyline. At the bottom, in a child's careful handwriting, it said, "Thank you, Super CEO lady," with a heart drawn next to it. Victoria felt unexpected tears prick at her eyes. "This is beautiful," she said softly. "Tell him I'll treasure it. He's been asking all day when he can meet you properly," Marcus said. "I told him maybe someday when you're not too busy." Victoria looked up from the drawing, meeting Marcus's eyes. "What if I'm not too busy this weekend? Would you and the kids like to go to lunch? Somewhere kid-friendly where Jalen can tell me all about his superhero plans?" Marcus felt his heart rate accelerate. "Are you sure?" "Outside of what?" Victoria asked gently. "Outside of the professional relationship we're supposed to have? Because I think we've already done that." Marcus knew she was right. What had started as occasional business consultations had evolved into something deeper. Something that felt dangerously close to friendship, and potentially more than that. "Yes," he said finally. "We'd love to have lunch with you." As Victoria smiled, Marcus realized they were crossing a line that would change everything between them. But looking at his son's artwork on her desk, and remembering her kindness the night before, he found he didn't care about the complications that might come. For the first time in years, someone had shown his family genuine care and consideration, and he wasn't ready to let that go. Saturday afternoon found Marcus standing outside Tony's Pizza Palace, adjusting Jalen's superhero cape for the third time, while Zoe rolled her eyes at her younger brother's enthusiasm. Marcus had chosen a casual family restaurant in their neighborhood, somewhere he felt comfortable and where Victoria wouldn't feel like she was being observed or judged. When Victoria's car pulled up, Marcus felt his palms become sweaty. This was different from their late-night conversations at the office. This was his real life. His children. His world. He watched as Victoria stepped out wearing jeans, sneakers, and a simple blue sweater that made her look approachable and normal, rather than like a powerful CEO. "Daddy, is that her?" Jalen whispered loudly, tugging on Marcus's hand. "She looks like a real superhero without the cape." Victoria approached them with a nervous smile, carrying a small wrapped gift. "You must be Zoe and Jalen," she said, crouching down to their eye level. "I've heard so many wonderful things about both of you." Jalen stepped forward boldly, unintimidated by meeting a stranger. "Are you really the super CEO lady? Do you have any actual superpowers?" Victoria laughed, and Marcus could see some of her nervousness disappear. "Well, I can make coffee without burning it now, thanks to your dad. And I can read really boring documents super fast. Do those count as superpowers?" "Those are good starter powers," Jalen said seriously. "Daddy says you helped him help sick kids by reading papers about houses. That's like a helping superpower." Victoria looked up at Marcus with surprise and appreciation. He had explained their work together to his children in terms they could understand, focusing on how she used her position to help families rather than just make money. "Your dad is the real superhero," Victoria told Jalen. "He takes care of you and your sister all by himself, and he helps me make better decisions for lots of families." Zoe had been quietly observing this exchange, and Marcus could see her scientific mind analyzing Victoria carefully. Finally, she spoke up. "Daddy says you're really smart about business. Do you know anything about science?" "A little bit," Victoria replied. I studied some engineering before I went into business. What kind of science are you interested in? Zoe's eyes lit up. Space. I want to study planets and maybe find new ones someday. That's incredible, Victoria said enthusiastically. Have you ever been to the Science Museum downtown? They have this amazing planetarium that shows what it's like to travel through space. As they settled into a booth at Tony's, Marcus watched his children warm up to Victoria with surprising ease. She listened to Jalen's detailed plans for developing superhero technology and asked Zoe thoughtful questions about her latest science project. More importantly, she treated them like intelligent individuals rather than talking down to them the way some adults did. Miss Victoria, Jalen said around a mouthful of pizza, how come you don't have any kids? Don't you want to be a mommy? Marcus nearly choked on his drink, but Victoria handled the direct question with grace. I always thought maybe someday I would have children. But I spent so much time working that I never found the right person to have a family with. Well, you found us now, Jalen said matter-of-factly. Maybe you could practice being a mommy with me and Zoe. Victoria caught Marcus's eye over Jalen's head, and the look they shared was loaded with emotions neither was quite ready to name. That's a very sweet offer, Victoria told Jalen. I'd be honored to be your friend. After lunch, they walked to the nearby park where Victoria pushed Jalen on the swings, while Zoe showed off her soccer skills. Marcus found himself watching Victoria discover the simple joy of spending time with children, seeing her laugh genuinely as Jalen demanded she go higher and higher on the swings. She's nice, Daddy, Zoe said quietly, coming to stand beside him. And she makes you smile in a different way. Marcus looked down at his perceptive daughter. What do you mean? You smile at me and Jalen because you love us, Zoe explained with 8-year-old wisdom. But you smile at her like she makes you happy in your heart. Mama used to make you smile like that before she left. The observation hit Marcus unexpectedly hard. His children had been so young when their mother left that he thought they had forgotten what a happy family looked like. But Zoe remembered. And she was right. Victoria did make him happy in a way he hadn't felt in years. Later that evening, after Victoria had given both children the small gifts she had brought, a telescope for Zoe and a superhero utility belt for Jalen, and after she had been invited to 3 more family activities by his enthusiastic children, Marcus walked her to her car. Thank you, he said simply, for being so wonderful with them. I know this is all new and complicated. They're amazing kids, Marcus, Victoria replied. You should be proud of the job you're doing raising them. I keep wondering what I'm doing, Marcus admitted. Taking you away from your work. Bringing you into our chaotic life. Your world and mine are so different. Victoria was quiet for a moment, leaning against her car as she chose her words carefully. You know what I realized today? Your world isn't chaotic. It's full of life, real life. The kind I've been missing while I was busy climbing corporate ladders. But people at your company, your friends, your family, what will they think about you spending time with a janitor and his kids? Victoria's expression grew serious. Honestly, some of them probably won't understand. But do you know what? I've spent so many years making decisions based on what other people would think that I almost forgot to consider what would make me happy. And what would make you happy? Marcus asked quietly. Victoria stepped closer to him, her voice soft but certain. Being part of something real. Having people in my life who care about me for who I am, not what I can do for them. Watching Zoe explain the solar system and seeing Jalen's face light up when he talks about saving the world. She paused, meeting his eyes. Getting to know you better, if you'll let me. Marcus felt his heart racing as he realized what she was saying. Victoria, I need to be honest with you. I'm falling for you. And that scares me, not just because of the differences in our situations, but because my kids are falling for you too. If this doesn't work out, it would hurt them. Victoria finished. It would hurt all of us. But Marcus, isn't the possibility of something beautiful worth the risk? Before Marcus could answer, Victoria continued. I've been thinking about this all week. I could offer you a better job at the company, something that pays more and has regular hours, but I don't want you to think I'm trying to buy your affection or change who you are. What kind of job? Marcus asked, curious despite himself. Community liaison position. Someone who reviews our development projects from the perspective of the families and communities they affect. The work you've been doing with me, but as an official role, you'd be perfect for it. Marcus was stunned. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a career that would use your insights and intelligence, that would pay you what you're worth, and that would let you spend more time with your kids, Victoria clarified. But I want you to know that this has nothing to do with us personally. You've proven you have valuable skills that our company needs. Whether you say yes or no to the job won't change how I feel about you. Marcus looked at this remarkable woman who had somehow seen his worth when no one else had bothered to look. And how do you feel about me? Victoria smiled, reaching out to take his hand. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to meet someone like you. Someone genuine and kind and strong. Someone whose children draw pictures of me with superhero capes and whose love for his family makes him the most attractive man I've ever met. Marcus felt any remaining resistance crumble. He had spent years protecting himself and his children from disappointment and heartbreak. But standing there with Victoria, he realized that some risks were worth taking. Yes, he said, squeezing her hand. Yes to the job? Yes to everything, Marcus clarified, and leaned in to kiss her softly. 6 months later, Marcus sat in his new office reviewing development proposals while Zoe and Jalen did homework at the conference table nearby. Victoria had been right about the job being perfect for him, and he had found unexpected satisfaction in using his voice to advocate for working families in corporate decisions. Victoria appeared in his doorway, having finished her own meetings for the day. Ready to head home? She asked. Home was now Victoria's house, where Marcus and the children had moved 2 months ago, after much discussion and careful planning. It had been an adjustment for everyone, but Zoe and Jalen had embraced having Victoria as part of their daily lives, and Victoria had embraced the beautiful chaos of family life. Can Miss Victoria help me with my science project? Zoe asked, looking up from her homework. It's about solar energy, and she knows about engineering. Of course, Victoria said, ruffling Zoe's hair. But first, how about we stop for ice cream on the way home? Yes, Jalen cheered, pumping his fist in the air. Family ice cream adventure. As they gathered their things to leave, Marcus reflected on how dramatically his life had changed. He had a career he was passionate about, a partner who loved him and his children unconditionally. And for the first time in years, he felt like his family was complete. What are you thinking about? Victoria asked, noticing his contemplative mood as they walked to the elevator. Just thinking about how sometimes the most important things happen when you least expect them, Marcus replied, taking her hand as Zoe and Jalen raced ahead to press the elevator button. Like falling in love with a janitor? Victoria teased gently. Like falling in love with a superhero, Marcus corrected, making Victoria laugh. As the elevator doors closed around their small family, Marcus realized that real life had turned out to be even better than any story he could have imagined. Sometimes the most unlikely people found each other in the most unexpected ways. And sometimes, if they were brave enough to take the risk, they found exactly what they had been searching for all along.